All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Capehart in for Joy Reid. We begin the readout tonight with the shocking new examples of how this country narrowly escaped a coup at the hands of its former president. Last week, we learned that Trump pressured his acting attorney general, Jeffrey Rosen, and Rosen's deputy to simply declare, with no evidence, that the entire 2020 election was, quote, corrupt. Thankfully, they refused, even though Trump had threatened their jobs. Now, Politico is reporting that Rosen's deputy and another DOJ official were prepared to resign effective immediately if Trump had in fact fired Rosen, as was feared. Most stunning, however, is that the resignation letter that they prepared accuses Trump of trying to, quote, utilize the Department of Justice's law enforcement powers for improper ends. But wait, there's more. Another damning story reveals that acting Attorney General Rosen also faced pressure from inside the Department of Justice. ABC News reports that in late December, Trump loyalist Jeffrey Clark, who then served as the acting head of the DOJ's civil division, pushed Rosen to intervene in the certification of Georgia's electoral votes. Clark drafted a letter for Rosen and his deputy that urged Georgia officials to, quote, investigate and perhaps overturn President Joe Biden's victory in the state. But Rosen's deputy, Richard Donahue, rebuffed Clark, saying, quote, there is no chance that I would sign this letter or anything remotely like this, adding, quote, I cannot imagine a scenario in which already certified election results should somehow be overridden by legislative action. Both stories show that American democracy itself was hanging by a thread in the closing days of the last administration, and that it was only a few government officials who held it together. The threat that this country faced and continues to face from Trump's big lie was underscored today in a criminal hearing for one of the January 6th defendants. The judge in the case, of Carl Dresch said today, quote, the defendant came to the Capitol because he placed his trust in someone who repaid that trust by lying to him. She told Dresch that your vote doesn't count any more than anyone else's. You don't get to cancel them out. Patriotism means loyalty to country, not to a single head of state. Joining me now, Michael Steele, former chairman of the RNC, and Daniel Alonzo, former federal prosecutor for the Eastern District of New York and former chief assistant in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for coming to the readout. I just need to get each of you to react to the new stories that we have out there. Chairman Steele, I will start with you. The idea that you would have a DOJ official draft a letter for the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General to Georgia officials saying, hey, we're going to look into this to maybe, override the voice of the people of Georgia.
Why not? This was part of the grand orchestration by Donald Trump trying to manipulate the various parts inside and outside of his administration to move the needle away from the decision that had been clearly made by the American people. So it's not surprising. And I believe that there will be more revelations as more documents are exposed and we get an even further, deeper sense of just how corrupt the intent and the actions were around this election. Here's the part that is a two-parter for me that's stunning. One is that they thought they could get away with it. They actually believed that Rosen and others inside the administration, inside Justice Department would actually do these things, that people would actually commit themselves to the furtherance of this crime. The second part I think is also important to note is just how much are the American people fully understanding and appreciating what this meant then and what it means now as we see what's happening around the country in the various states, Jonathan, that are looking to lay the pipe, to lay the ground for what will come in 22 and in 24. This is not just about the presidential election in 24. This is about complete control of government at the legislative as well as the executive level.
And Daniel, I'd love to get your reaction, too, but also as a former federal prosecutor, how offensive is it to you that there's someone inside the Department of Justice who was willing to put pen to paper and try to get the acting attorney general to sign off on something as offensive, to my mind, as offensive to American democracy?
Well, Jonathan, I'm not prone to hyperbole, but this is truly some insane stuff. How offensive? This is an 11 on the scale of 1 to 10, right? But what it really does here is I actually like how it underscores the difference between, officials, I'll put in quotes, like Mr. Clark. On the one hand, people that are of the sort of Trump view of how you can use the Justice Department to further your own political goals, which is outrageously wrong, shouldn't be done, and, as you said, offensive. And then on the other side, you've got people like Richard Donoghue, who is my former colleague from the Eastern District of New York. Everything that he's been reported to have said sounds exactly right and consistent with our training. To say there's no chance I'm signing this stuff, guys. It was a ridiculous draft email to these Georgia officials. And the fact that Clark said, apparently in the report, it said that in the cover email, he said, I see no reason not to sign this, or words to that effect. Well, geez, there are a lot of reasons not to sign it, not the least of which is you're talking about ongoing investigations that have shown basically the opposite. Nothing's changed since Barr made his statement. And Donoghue's a professional, and so's Rosen. And they said, forget it, we're not doing it. I mean, I think that shows them in a very good light, but it contrasts what Trump was trying to do.